All right, Duval, we are just a couple days away from your Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Indianapolis Colts, trying to get their first win of the season. We're going to preview the game here today. Still on the cruise here, as you can see. We're out in some very rough waters heading back to Vancouver. So been a little bit of a rough day here so far. But Jaguars versus Colts, going to be a big game for a few reasons. Obviously, like I mentioned, the Jaguars trying to win their first game of the season, but you've got the unveiling, the introduction, the first game in which the Jaguars will be wearing their throwbacks ever. Since they changed this uniform way back when, 15 years ago, they have not worn these uniforms. So it's going to be a great look. The Jaguars are going to look awesome out there. They're also inducting Tom Coughlin into the pride of the Jaguars, and he's certainly had his issues at times in Jacksonville, especially at the end as the EVP there. But I don't think the 2017 run to the AFC title game happens without him, and he's also the best coach in Jaguars history, having taken the young, brand new franchise expansion team and very quickly turning them into contenders year in and year out for the first several years of the Jaguars being a football team. So Tom Coughlin being inducted into the pride, well-deserved, very excited for him in that regard. Obviously, EVP situation kind of got out of hand at times down the stretch, but there was a lot of factors beyond just what Tom Coughlin had going on there, but certainly the best coach in franchise history and someone who was instrumental in a 2017 run to the AFC title game. Miles Jack was not down. So the Colts, they just can't win in Jacks. They're coming off 2 straight wins, and the Jaguars coming off 4 straight losses, obviously 9 of their last 10. But the Colts have not won in Jacksonville in a decade, despite playing in Jacksonville every single year. They cannot win in Jacks. Looking at the entirety of that run, it's not like you can point at a certain specific element as to why. Element of this matchup. But I will say, since Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence have been together in Jacksonville, the Jaguars have been very good against the Colts. Whether it's in Jacksonville or in Indy, they're 3-1. The only loss they had was a shootout in Indy where the Jaguars defense was just getting picked apart, and they were spamming crossers and mesh all day against the Jaguars defense, against a young linebacker in Devin Lloyd, and Jags couldn't do anything about it. But the Jags, Trevor Lawrence, they still put up points in that game, 27 points, I believe. So again, Jags are 3-1 against the Colts under Doug Peterson with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. If there's a game where Trevor Lawrence can get in rhythm, I do think it's this one. You saw him in rhythm against Miami, certainly early on in that football game. First 3 quarters, I thought he played very well. Second half of the game against Cleveland, played very well. Since then, it's been a roller coaster, ups and downs for Trevor. There's been some uncharacteristic misses from an accuracy standpoint, getting sped up, not necessarily due to anything happening in front of him, just like a lack of confidence and rhythm, and then also being a little skittish in the pocket at times. You've seen rolling out of pockets where he really has no business trying to escape. He needs to hang in there and manage the pocket and play within the rhythm of the offense. And I think he has the ability to do that. And if there's going to be a game where he can do that, I think it's against this football team, the Indianapolis Colts. We'll talk about the matchups here, obviously, but getting into some injury news, Jonathan Taylor out for the Colts. And I think he's their best player. I think he's their most pivotal player, most critical player on the offensive side of the ball. He's been playing great this year, and they're not going to have him in this game, so that's a big loss for the Colts. DeForest Buckner's still out. Anthony Richardson is likely to play with the oblique injury, it looks like. So the Jaguars, looks like they're going to be playing Anthony Richardson at quarterback, but Joe Flacco's the backup. He came in and did pretty good for the Colts last week against the Steelers. The Colts already had a commanding lead when he came in the game. And then a guy who shredded the Jaguars defense with the Browns last year, but looking like Anthony Richardson's going to play, so that could be a moot point. But the Jaguars are likely getting back Darnell Savage, according to Doug Peterson, which will be huge for this defense. Devin Lloyd as well, another player that's been playing at a high level for the Jags. Doug Peterson is optimistic about Josh Hines-Allen, who is going through the concussion protocol right now. Optimistic that he'll be able to get back for this one, which would also be huge for this football team. Evan Ingram, there's a chance he could be back. Jaguars star tight end, pass catcher. He's day-to-day right now, but there's a chance he could be back for this one. Looking at the Colts, what they kind of bring to the table, they do have very strong linebackers and a good front, even without DeForest Buckner. You know, you got Grover Stewart, Tyquan Lewis, Leatu Latu, the rookie, playing good football, several other depth and rotational players up front that do a really good job for them. So that is a unit, the front seven, that the Jaguars really have to contend with and play good football with against. The Jaguars are coming off their best performance as an offensive line of the season against an arguably even better Texans defensive front. Now, offensively, the Colts also have a really talented group of pass catchers. Even without Jonathan Taylor out there are pass catchers that you have to worry about. Michael Pittman is extremely consistent. He's very physical, has reliable hands. He can kill you on slant routes. He's good at finding soft spots in zones. He's physical against DBs once he gets the ball in his hands. So you got to worry about him. Always know where he is. Josh Downs is now back for them, and he has been red hot since coming back from his injury over the last couple games, catching everything thrown his way. He is a player I would have liked to see in Jacksonville, but Downs, despite not being the biggest receiver, plays in the slot. He has tremendous vertical leaping ability. He is incredibly quick in and out of his breaks. He's fast as all get out, and he has great hands. So he can run pretty much every route at a high level and beat you in a lot of different ways out of the slot. And then you've also got Adonai Mitchell, who hasn't been heavily featured yet. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster trying to get him the football, but when he does get the ball in his hands and when he does have opportunities to go get it one-on-one, he's another dangerous player. Alec Pierce as well. So they've got pass catchers in there. Tight ends can present some matchup issues with their size too. So certainly you got to worry about those skill position players, the receivers for them. Anthony Richardson, when you look at his game, obviously he kind of breaks your numbers formula from a run game perspective because he is able to be a runner and run very effectively, one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL. And then he also has the arm to make every throw. He's not consistent right now in a variety of ways at the quarterback position, but his legs and his combination of that athleticism and arm talent make it a game every time you play against him where you really have to be locked in. I think the Jaguars have the ability to do that on defense, even without a Tyson Campbell or a Foye Oluokun, two of their best players. But it's going to be a test, no doubt, a different type of test going up against an Anthony Richardson than it has been against a lot of the guys you've played against this year. The defense, getting some guys back, I think is good for them, and then also just not having to deal with Nico Collins. Like, Nico Collins killed them last week in man coverage. The Jaguars are going to play a lot of man coverage. They're not going to blitz a ton. That's just kind of what they do. They will give you different looks on money downs. Ryan Nielsen will. Varied coverages on money downs. They switch things up to try to confuse you, but you're going to get a lot of man coverage. And so can Ronald Darby and Buster Brown and Darnell Savage and Jarian Jones stick with their assignments in man coverage this week? That's going to be a big key to this game. If they're able to do that, it's going to be difficult for the Colts to keep up, in my opinion, because, again, I think that Trevor Lawrence can find a way in this game against a defense with a weak secondary overall. They do have some decent players, but overall it's a weak secondary, and it's a cover 3 heavy scheme. Still the most cover 3 heavy scheme in the NFL with Gus Bradley running things over there. He has roasted this team throughout the last 2 seasons. He has been able to have some of the best games of his career against the Colts. I think he's going to be able to find rhythm, get comfortable, and have a pretty good game for the Jaguars in this one. I've got the Jaguars winning at 27-17 in front of a hometown crowd. Again, wearing the Prowlers, looking good, feeling good, playing good. Tom Coughlin inducted into the pride of the Jaguars, and the Jaguars getting to 1-4 before they head off to London to take on the Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots. 2 much tougher defenses, but winnable games overall. The Jags are going to try to get back in the swing of things here and get themselves back into contention. But right now they have got a steep uphill climb that, again, starts with the Indianapolis Colts this Sunday in Jacksonville. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good one.